Greetings, friends, and welcome to the woods. We've been talking about how to get rid of the psychic parasites that occasionally will latch on to people who are sensitive and feed off of their emotional energies. We talked about how to reframe that specific sort of problem. So rather than seeing it in the context of a demonic attack in this spiritual war that we are going through, it's better to cast it as what it truly is. Psychic parasites. Because when you give them impressive names, you're giving them too much power. And you're setting it up in your mind that this problem has a lot of backing from the universe and a lot of validity and a lot of ability to take you down. And in truth, you are a lot more powerful than you know. And as the vibrations of the planet rise, that will only become more so. You will have more power to change your life, your situation, and everything around you. So let's get back into it. So, assuming that you have had a parasitic infestation, or you've dealt with somebody who has had that problem, let's take a look at some of the causes of that, some of the issues around that, because you can diminish it for a while and you can push it back. But you can't solve the problem unless you solve the root of the problem. And for most people who are dealing with that, it's because there's a weak spot or a hole in their aura or their etheric emanation, or both. Or there had been at one time. And at that time, the parasite latched on, and they haven't been able to fully shake it, get it off, get it away, unhook it. Now, there are a lot of things that can create that sort of problem. But let's deal with two of the most common and what most often causes the issue. The first thing is invitation. And this happens when people are young and they're curious. And they get a sense that there's something out there they can sort of hear, sort of know. But for most of us, we're not given any sort of spiritual education as to how to safely investigate what happens outside of the dimensions of right here, right now, this physical world, this consensual reality that we're supposed to be entirely focused on and ignore everything else. You see, our society only acknowledges the five senses, you know, the hearing, the seeing, the smelling, the touch, the five senses. The sixth sense, the intuitive, there's a limited belief that that's even real. Now, there are other civilizations, far more sophisticated spiritually than ours, who acknowledge there being 11 senses or 15 senses or 18 senses, because they categorize all of the sensation of other dimensional realities, how our ability to sense it, and the different ways that we can sense it. And they have words for those. They have categories for those, because they know that our ability to see, to perceive, to sense goes way beyond the five senses. But That's been taken away from us. The vocabulary, the knowledge, all of that has been taken away, co-opted by the authority figures, and we're not allowed to know what they know or see what they see or do what they do. That's for them. We have to be cogs in a wheel. We have to be focused on the mundane, what's right here in this little box that they've given us, this little. So children and young people being much more experimental and less married to dogma because they haven't given up so much of their life, their pleasure, their desire, their will, their freedom to living in this box. They haven't been invested in it enough yet to to feel like they have to completely buy into it. They're allowed to explore. They quest out. And sometimes, because they have never been taught how to guard themselves and guard their physicality and guard their astral and guard their etheric when they quest out, they open themselves up, and if there's something predatory waiting on that other side, it latches in. It's very similar to walking out in nature where there's ticks, going out without the proper protection. Most people know when you walk out in nature, you want to cover yourself so that you don't get, if you're walking through tall grass, if you're walking through areas where there might be these bloodsuckers, to wear boots, to tuck your pants, wear long pants, tuck them into your boots, that when you get back you need to check for these parasites. And it's the same sort of protocol. When you're spiritually questing out, you need to protect yourself. You need to provide cover for your aura and your etheric body. And you need to make sure that when you come back, you don't have anything attached, that you immediately, before it gets into you, you immediately brush it off, get rid of it. There's ways to do it safely. But if you have a kid or a group that wants to explore, and maybe they have discovered something in popular culture, or maybe they have come up with something or have heard about something, and so they do some exploration. The classic is the Ouija board. Ooh, we've got a Ouija board and we're gonna invite the spirits to come and talk to us. Well, if you don't know how to protect yourself first, or you don't bother, or you just open yourself up to whatever wants to come through, most likely the first thing that's going to come through is something that's going to want to play with you, to figure out some way to get in to you, to parasite, and to establish a long-range parasitic relationship with you and your friends. And since a Ouija board hasn't been claimed by any tradition and isn't honor bound to respect boundaries as most other traditional methods have been, most other traditional methods, many other ones, have a relationship with some divine aspect which guards over and makes sure that those methods are not corrupted. Ouija board, it's a game. It's not real, so it doesn't need that, right? Well, now you're inviting something in without protection, unless you know to do that yourself. And it's walking around in a grassy field in bare feet and bare legs, just waiting for the ticks to jump on you. The equivalent. So, If that's something that you've done in the past, and you think that that might have caused problems for you because your innate ancestral spirits or your own instincts didn't know or weren't available to provide some protection for you during that experimental time. That's the case for you. You need to revoke permission. You need to let the entities, energies, parasites know that they no longer have access to you. Whatever they had thought or believed, that you're done. You're done. Now that sometimes takes a lot of effort to stick if they've been cohabiting with you for a while, but it's a start. So if you can think back on some point in your past where you developed an interest in exploration that was perhaps a bit unhealthy, start with revoking permission. Now, the second most problematic is if you take psychoactive substances, and by that I mean drinking, smoking, most antidepressant, that sort of thing, most of that, it just shuts things down. But if you're taking other things, you know, uppers, downers, benzos, you're taking them recreationally or as part of a pharmaceutical package, you might have a problem, especially if it's ongoing. And drinking is a big one. People who drink without intention. Alcohol can be used to open up to the other side and to share good energy with friends. If that's your intention, you do it deliberately, you know what you're doing, and you know how to stay safe in that haze. It can be done. But most often than not, and because we have never been taught to do it correctly, and because a lot of our alcohol is adulterated, and some of it has been prepared for us to bring on the effect of openness to what is not healthy. When you imbibe, you open doors. And when you open doors in yourself, things can come in. And sometimes they stay. So if you have a recreational habit, and it's a habit, it's not something you choose to do within certain circumstances for spiritual or strongly social reasons, which border on the spiritual, and you know how to create boundaries for it, and you know how to protect your psyche from it. If you don't understand those techniques and use them consciously, you may be opening yourself up for interference. You may be opening yourself up for parasites. There may be a reason beyond hangover. You feel so tired in the morning. If you want to take control of these things, start with that. There's more I could say on it, but this has got to be bite-sized. I think that's a big enough bite. And welcome to the woods.